Well, it's behavior modification for children. Hello, good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good evening and welcome. Thank you for joining me live. Welcome to Change It. Yes, the ABC. A lot of people always wonder that is it possible to change a child's behavior? How long is it going to take to actually change a child's behavior? Now, the answer to the first question is yes, it's actually possible because a lot of times children are born, a lot of scientists believe that children are born tabula rasa, they're born clean slate, so every behavior they tend to display is actually learned. And in the real sense of it, bad behaviors or inappropriate behaviors are actually learned and they can be unlearned. Yes. And the beautiful thing about the brain is that the brain is an organ that you can train. All right, the brain is an organ that you can actually train, unlike your kidneys, your intestines, your liver, your lungs. The brain is actually one organ that you can train to act in a way that you want it to, and the more you use the brain, the better it gets. So for children, when children begin to display certain inappropriate behaviors, as parents, we can help them, walk them through certain processes, walk them through certain phases, certain activities for them to unlearn those certain behaviors. So definitely you will be able to change your child's behavior, right? Like we always say that nature has it first. All right, like the computer is fashioned like the brain, the memory of the computer is fashioned like the brain. You can upload, you can delete, you can format. Yes, that's one beautiful thing about the brain. You can actually delete certain inappropriate behaviors from your children's brain. It takes a while, yes, but it is actually possible. And how long? That's the second question now. For that, it is not, the time is not really cast in stone. You really cannot say it will take. But once you start the processes, you will begin to see significant improvements as from the second, third week. And scientists believe, based on a lot of research, that it takes about 21 days, about 3 weeks to actually change a person's behavior. But then again, working with children, yes, I agree that there are certain behaviors that you can actually change in 3 weeks. On the other hand, there are certain behaviors that will not go even after 3 months. So you have to be intentional. You have to make up your mind that this is work. I am going to put in the work. I am going to give it my time. So very quickly, let's dive into it. This is a 2 days program. So for today, we will be looking at the diagnosis of the bad behavior, and then we're looking at the tools in which we will use in changing the behaviors. Tomorrow, God willing, we will be looking at the consequences, the discipline that works. So that's discipline that works, discipline versus punishment, how you can use discipline to make the character stay, the character that you want, how you can use discipline for this character to stay. All right. So then I would like to give us a brief definition, or a very simple definition of what bad behavior is, or rather, I would rather take it from the reverse, what good behavior is actually all about, because we are all here to learn how to let our children imbibe good behavior. So, just very basically, good behavior is any behavior that is socially, morally, spiritually, developmentally acceptable. It is socially acceptable, it is culturally acceptable, developmentally it is acceptable. And when we say developmentally, it is because it is inappropriate for a 13 years old to begin to act like a 6-year-old. So it is what's developmentally appropriate. So these are the yardsticks in which you would use to measure if your child's behavior is actually good or bad, or the child is simply acting according to his age. Because sometimes, especially in this part of the world, I don't know, for some reasons, some parents just want their 6 year olds to start acting like professors, you know, especially for parents that they have taken the go ye into the world and be fruitful and multiply. You see that segment. Some mothers have taken it personally, and then they begin to give birth every year, every other year, every year. Mothers will even advise you that do what you want to do on time so that you can rest. Once your baby is a year and 2 months, get pregnant again. A year and 2 months, you know. So you see their children are like 2, 4, 8, 10. It is not bad if that is how you have chosen to procreate, all right? It is not bad. But then it becomes bad when you now make your older child, especially your first child, you make that child like the assistant mother, especially if that is a girl child. A lot of times I see 8 years olds, 6 years old dragging their younger ones to school. They are the ones that will drag about 4 children back, 8 years old, wash their clothes, wash their school uniform, prepare lunch. You know, that is too much. That is parentification. And then when the child doesn't act like an adult, when the child is not acting as up to the standard that the parent want to force him, which is above his age, which is above his natural abilities, they begin to beat the child. They begin to consider that as misbehavior. So as parent, before you say something is a misbehavior, before you call a particular inadequacy in a child a misbehavior, you have to be sure that this thing I want this my child to do, is it in line with this child's developmental milestones? Is my child supposed to be acting this way? Is my 6 year old supposed to be cooking? Is my 6 year old supposed to be preparing the younger ones for school? Is my 14-year-old supposed to be doing this? So as a parent, we have to be sure before we consider something to be bad behavior, we have to be sure that it is what it is developmentally bad, wrong, not up to standard. So in summary, we say good behavior is any behavior that is socially, morally, culturally, developmentally, and a lot of times, especially in this part of the world where we are spiritual, spiritually acceptable, spiritually appropriate, morally appropriate. All right. So when a child is doing the exact opposite of all of that, the behavior is not culturally appropriate or acceptable, it's not spiritually acceptable, it's not morally acceptable. And when we say spiritually, please, let's be mindful. Let us be mindful, because there are some spiritual organizations that make children do things that are morally, socially, culturally inappropriate. You hear certain things and you begin to wonder that which God actually placed this burden on these people to be doing certain. When we define good behaviors, we are careful. All right, so we dive right into it. The first thing to do when you want to modify your child's behavior is to do what? Is to carry out a diagnosis. All right, is to sit yourself down and ask yourself certain behaviors. The first step is to carry out what? The diagnosis of the behavior. Like I said, after you have found out, after you know what good behavior is, if you find out that your child is not acting in that line, then you know that, okay, this behavior is inappropriate. A child that is always beating his younger ones, a child that is always fighting, a child that is always picking things, a child that lies, a child that is disrespectful, a child that doesn't listen to anybody. All right, we know that these are morally unacceptable. All right, so we consider these to be what? Bad behaviors. But then again, you now have to sit yourself down and you ask yourself that, what behavior do I want to change in my child? That is the first thing you have to do. Because a child that is doing like 5 things that you consider inappropriate, you cannot change all 5 at the same time. And that is just the truth. You start with one. And when you are done changing that one, you proceed to another. So the first thing you ask yourself is, what behavior, what inappropriate behavior do I want to change in this child? What inappropriate behavior am I starting with? All right, this my child is always fighting with his younger ones. That is the behavior I want to change. Then the next thing you ask yourself is, what behavior do I want to replace that behavior with? All right, because it is one thing to stop a bad behavior, it is another thing to just leave the child blank and you're not feeling it. If you take out one bad behavior and you don't feel it, you don't teach the child the right behavior, the appropriate behavior to replace that bad behavior, the child will feel it with another bad behavior or another inappropriate behavior. So one thing you have to do is ask yourself, okay, if I want fighting with his younger ones, I want to stop my child from talking back at adults, from being disrespectful, from being aggressive, what am I replacing with? That's the first thing you have to do. I want to stop my child from fighting, and I want to replace my child with being more accommodating. I want my child to be more tolerant of his younger ones, of his friends, of his siblings. So you state the wrong behavior you want to change, and then the behavior you want to replace it. Better yet is write it out. The first behavior you want to change, write it out. Then the next thing you have to do is to determine the core of the behavior, or you try to pinpoint the time this behavior started. Okay, we're taking for instance, you want your child to be more tolerant, to be more accommodating with his younger ones, and then you now ask yourself, okay, I remember when I had my younger child. Like for me, I remember when I had my second child, my first son was just all over the place. He felt so happy, he was so excited. He was always sleeping on the same bed with the baby. When he wakes up in the morning, that's the first place he goes to the baby's bed, holds the baby's hand, and then at some point when they were about 7, 8, they began to fight. All right. So as a parent that this is not how it has always been. My child has not always been disrespectful. My child has not always been so cold to everybody. It just started at a point. So part of the diagnosis is you have to sit down and ask yourself, when did this behavior start? When did it actually start? Was it when he started GSS1? Was it when I changed his school? Was it when we moved? You have to do yourself that honor to date back, because if you do not know the cause, you may not succeed in completely putting an end to that behavior. I remember a woman called me, a parent called me and said she wanted me to recommend a good school for her in our neighborhood, because according to her, she put her baby in a particular boarding house, and this girl came back and was something else. She just called me and said, Auntie, I'm in trouble. My daughter cannot go back to this particular school. That was a mother that was very observant. She came back, and according to her, she said her daughter was behaving like a mini, I don't even want to use the word, she said it in Yoruba. You understand? And she knew that she was able to pinpoint the time that behavior started. And a lot of times in school too, we just see a child that has always been friendly, the child has been happy playing with the friends, and all of a sudden this child just wants to be by himself. This child is aggressive, doesn't want anybody book, nobody should come close to him or her. And then a lot of times you have to work with the parents, and then we begin to probe, we begin to ask. We now find out sometimes that it is when the child went for summer halls with one particular auntie or uncle or family friend, and the child comes back an entirely different person. All right, because one or two things might have happened, okay, or the child might have interacted with the wrong set of kids. And children are like sponge, especially for younger children. They are very highly impressionable. They're just like sponge, and anything they see they just absorb and begin to behave that way. So number 2, like I said, is for you to diagnose, find out. If you really want to tell yourself the truth, you will get it. Is it when your child started a new school? Is it when a new neighbor packed into your compound? Is it when a new student joined the class? Is it when the child got to a particular age? You understand, and then he's beginning to think his younger ones are no longer up to standard. So as a parent, find out the cause, which will be easier if you can pinpoint when that inappropriate behavior started. Another thing to do in trying to diagnose the problem is to find out triggers. Okay, what triggers this behavior in this my child? Is my child angry? Does he become disobedient when he's watching cartoons and I tell him go and do the dishes, and because he's watching a particular cartoons he becomes so aggressive, he becomes so stubborn? And that's another thing, that's another diagnosis of trying to pinpoint when the behavior started. Is my child acting this way when he started watching this particular series? Is my child, there's this particular monster, a particular high school where all the children are monsters, and my son watched a particular episode and started acting weird, and that was the last that channel of our subscription. We had to delete that channel completely. So as parents, you also have to be on the lookout as part of the diagnosis when the character started from. So like I said, look out for triggers. Is it when he's watching these cartoons that he doesn't want to go and do dishes? Is it when he's coming back from school hungry and he becomes cranky and he's talking to everybody anyhow? So look out for triggers. What triggers this inappropriate behavior in the child? Because of course the child cannot just be misbehaving all throughout the day. All right, there are certain times or there are certain things that happens and your child just begins to display certain characters that you really do not like or are morally unacceptable or inappropriate. So look at what triggers it. What's always causing this child, at this point this child just begins to talk to people anyhow. This child just gets angry and begins to beat his younger ones anyhow. Is it when I scold him? Because that is another thing, especially for older siblings. When you scold the older siblings for the mistakes of their younger ones, when you are not there, they will take out the anger, they will deal with the younger ones. And the more you scold the older children for the mistakes of the younger ones, the more you make the older children dislike the younger ones. So look out for the triggers. You ask the child, why did your elder sister slap you? Younger ones will tell you it was because you shouted. So look out for triggers. That way it will be easier for you to begin to walk your way or walk the child back to acting very well. And also, like I said, know the developmental milestones of your children so that you are not trying to make a professor out of a 6-year-old, or you are not trying to make an assistant mommy, an assistant wife of your 14-year-old daughter. Do you understand? This will not work. So that know the developmental milestones, know what your child should be able to do morally at a certain age, know what your child should be able to do physically at a particular age, academically at a particular age. Know these things, and they are easy. When you check the internet, you will see these things. It will just give you a list. In fact, you will see 1,000,001 sites and you'll be tired. So know the developmental milestones, the level your children, or the level of maturity your children ought to have attained morally, academically, physically, health wise, socially. All right, this will help you. Then what else again? Understand the emotions. In trying to diagnose, it's also important to understand the emotions in which this child is misbehaving. Is it vengeance? Because I remember a certain incident. There's this particular child that just comes to this. Once they sight themselves from the gates, they are just fighting and fighting and fighting. At some point, we had to call them. The teacher, brought it to my knowledge, and we had to call them. And there was one particular. There's just one that's always hitting the other one. Anytime he sees him, just slaps him, kicks him, takes his book, tears the book, throw it away. I had to call him. What happened? Why do you hate this your classmate so much? They were in primary 4 at that time, and you would not believe, according to him, when they were in primary 2, other guy did something to him. So now he's bigger, now he's stronger. It is time for payback. So you can imagine a child that has kept vengeance in his heart for that long. That is why it is dangerous for us as parents, guardians, or teachers to just beat or punish children. Always find out why. Now, if we had just beaten that boy for misbehavior, he may stop hitting on that particular boy, his classmate. but you see that vindictive character will be there, and it will continue to grow in him. So that is why punishment is just like cutting the branches. The root is still there to spring forth more branches, and it will happen in other ways. It will do what? Happen in other ways. This was the same boy that went to the class because he was angry and had gone to class because he wanted to punish this particular boy. He opened the boy's food flags, filled the boy's food with water, so that we would not suspect that he's the one. And this is just a 9-year-old boy, so we would not suspect he's the one. He opened the flags of all the other classmates and filled everybody's food, including his own, with water. So by the time everybody came to the class and it was time for break, and the children opened their food and there was water. There was water. You know, all the children in the class had water in their flats. We had to just tell them not to eat the food. But he was the first person to carry his food. He opened the flags and he started eating. There was water in his food and he was eating. So his mates were asking me, why are you eating? There's water in the food. He said, my mom was the one that poured water so that my food would not get spoiled. So because he could eat the food, we were able to put two and two together that this boy must have been the one that did this. We didn't just decide to punish him, because for a child to be that creative with that kind of, I don't want to call it, for a child to be that thoughtful about this inappropriate acts that he wanted to do, you know that it was coming from a deeper place. So if you just beat him, that would just be you cutting the branches, you know. So immediately he did that. We asked him why. He kept on denying. We asked him why, and then he said he was sorry. So by the time we called him the other time and we had to probe further, it was then he was telling us that he wanted to punish that particular boy. He was one that poured water in his food. It was because the boy was always beating him when they were in basic 2. So we knew that we were dealing with a serious case of vindictiveness, if there's a word like that. We had to start working this boy back. So as parents, when a child is misbehaving and you don't diagnose the cause, you don't probe further to find out why, you just beat the child. The child may stop that particular misbehavior, but it will manifest in another misbehavior. Misbehaviors are always symptoms. When a child is misbehaving, that is a symptom of a deeply rooted problem. So like I always say, when a child is misbehaving, that is the headache for the malaria that is worrying that child. So when you give the child malaria, that is you. When you give the child paracetamol, that's you just beating the child. You are just giving paracetamol to take care of the headache. The malaria is still there that has to be treated. So always diagnose the problem. Always find out why. Eventually, it took a while to get this boy to forgive. It took a while. At some point, the mothers even came. That is how deep it can get. The mothers had to come. We had to talk to the mothers, you know, because one was always going on with injuries and the mother was always calling. All right, so always find out why. Always find out triggers. Always find out the emotion. Always beating the siblings. That is anger. All right, you beat the child. In fact, sometimes it begins to develop into hatred. All right, there was this older child that, as always, you know, the mother had made her the assistant mother, so she had to take care of the siblings. So the mother will always beat her. When the younger ones don't do their homework, the mother will beat her. When the younger ones come back and they just dump their food flags on the table, the mother will beat her. When the uniforms are not washed, the mother will beat her. So at a point, you know, she became like the sacrificial lamb. When the younger ones misbehave, they will lie against her. So the mother, and the mother wasn't even ready to listen. The mother was always like, whether it's a lie or not, you had the older ones, you're supposed to take care of your younger ones. And she was just 8. So there was a day she came to school and she was crying. She was crying bitterly. So I had to call her, my dear, what happened to you? You know, and she said, all my younger ones are demons. She was talking from a place of anger. She was talking from a place of hurt. She was talking from a place of hatred. She was beginning to hate her younger one. So based on that, she started to misbehave, you know. So the mother kept on complaining the more. You understand? So it took a while before we could talk the mother, walk her back. We first had to talk to the child, you know, encourage her. We had to call the younger ones, talk to them. So understand the emotions behind this misbehavior. Is it anger? Is it hatred? Is it vengeance? Is it fear? A lot of children misbehave when they are afraid. Now, the brain of a child doesn't work well when the child is afraid, when the child is stressed, when the child is angry. That is because the prefrontal lobe, the portion of their brain responsible for decision making and right thinking, it slows down, it shuts down when children are afraid. When children, that is why you see a lot of children will never know maths, as far as the maths teacher is always flogging them. You go and bring I remember one certain time when I still used to do home lessons, and a mother called me and said she wanted me to take over from where the maths teacher had stopped, that she loves the maths teacher, that the maths teacher beats this girl, is always beating her. That ever since I started beating her, her brain had opened. And then I tested this girl. This girl was in primary 6. Usually we would start testing from basic 4, because when we want to do test for mathematics and the parents say, oh, my child is so poor in maths, we test for basic 4, because really that's where calculations in maths actually started from. All the other classes, so probably basic 3, all the other classes, they're just doing simple arithmetic, and basic operations. So we'll test from primary 4. And I tested this girl, primary 4, maths, nothing. Went to primary 3, maths, nothing. Like, her maths teacher is very good, he has been beating her, so the maths teacher will beat her, this girl will cry, and then she will start acting as if she's really working, and he was just deceiving the mother and was punishing the girl and deceiving the mother. So when you beat children that you want them to learn maths, in fact 9.5 out of 10 will not learn that maths, because really the portion of their brain responsible for reasoning will close when they are afraid. That's why a lot of children, once they, I hate maths, it is because they are afraid, and the more they fear maths, the more they are not learning anything. All right, so if you really want your children to begin to behave well, if you want to begin to modify your children's behavior, you want to put an end to bad behavior, you have to make sure that you don't use fear as a weapon. You don't use fear as part of your parenting tools. Okay, your children shouldn't be afraid of you. Your children shouldn't be afraid when they make simple mistakes. All right, and then number 6, to separate the child from the bad behavior. Separate the child from the bad behavior so that you don't make the child suffer. It's the child is displaying inappropriate behavior, or the child is displaying some bad behaviors based on his own level of understanding, or based on certain reactions to some of the experiences that they've had, or some actions, or some interactions with other people. So you have to separate the behavior from the child. Don't tell the child, don't conclude that your child is bad. Do you understand? This my child is wicked, I sure say they send this pikin to come torment me. Lot of parents. This my child, my village people are the one using him. No, nobody is using your child against you. All right, separate the behavior from the child. Love the child. Everybody responds to love. And I must add that if you know that you really want this behavior modification to work, you have to put away everything that has to do with hatred, because if the child knows, children are more receptive to, everybody responds to love, even you as an adult. Everybody responds to love. All right, so when it gets to the point that the child begins to feel unloved, that child will misbehave the more. I don't know if any of us have noticed that the more you call a child foolish, that child will continue to behave foolish. Do you understand? Because once you call the child foolish, you are putting undue pressure on the child. The child now wants to act better to please you, but in the process of acting better, the child is doing more than is expected. As such, it shuts down the portion of the brain that will make him think better. All right. And another thing is your words. Our words as parents over time becomes the silent voice in our children's mind. All right, so the more you continue to tell the child you're stupid, the child will continue to act stupid, because over time your voice is what is continues to ring in the child's brain, in the child's mind. The child continues to act subconsciously. The child believes that he's stupid. You tell a child you're wicked, you tell the child you are evil, like say they send you to come kill me, abi. If they send you come tell them say you no meet me for house, all this kind of negative derogatory your children behave. All right, so be careful of the words that you use. Positive words. Pray for your children. Separate the bad behavior from the child. Okay, your child is acting inappropriate doesn't mean the child is bad. All right, and then finally, be optimistic. Yes, believe that this behavior modification will work, and it will certainly work. Believe that it will work. Be optimistic that it will work. All right, and be ready to go through the process. Please, this is not a 1 week program. Change, it is not something you're going to do in 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. All right, be ready to give it time, as long as it takes. Be ready to give it your time. All right, now the second step. The first step, like I said, is diagnosis of the problem. The second step is setting the stage. Now, when we say setting the stage, it is easier to get somebody to change. It is easier to get your child to change when the child really wants to change. Change is easier when it is intrinsically motivated than when you have to force the child, when you have to flog the child, when you have to cajole the child. The child will just act up for like a day or two so that you can buy him like a syrup and bobo and chocolate. Will just act up, and if the change is not coming from within, if the child doesn't understand why he should change, if the child doesn't understand that him doing away with the bad behaviors and imbibing the good behaviors is for his ultimate good, the child may not want to change. So you have to set the stage, and the first thing you have to do is to spell out the rules. Set age appropriate rules and make sure that the child understands. Let the child know that henceforth in this house we don't use abusive words. Henceforth in this house you don't hit your younger ones. Henceforth in this house, immediately you finish eating, you go to the kitchen and do the dishes. Immediately you come back from school, you go straight to the bathroom, take your bath, wash your uniform before you come out for lunch. So that the child understands. Immediately you tell the child, ask the child, do you understand? Almost every child will tell you yes. Then you tell the child, repeat everything I have said the way you understand it. Oh yeah, tell me back. Say it back to me the way you understand it. Let the child repeat this word back to you the way he understands, so that you can correct misconceptions, you can be sure, and then you constantly remind the child of the rules. Okay, are appropriate, which behaviors are acceptable. Just tell the child, see, I'm your mother. You cannot be raising your voice to talk to me. Okay? And when you are doing that, if you are shouting, I'm your mother, you cannot be raising your voice to talk to me. You cannot shout at the child. You cannot be shouting at the child to tell the child to bring down his voice. So you have to be calm. I'm your mother. I'm your father. You cannot talk to me like that. You cannot insult me, all right? And you have to be firm in your words. You cannot talk to me like that. It is unacceptable. Yes, I love you. Yes, I want you to be expressive. Explain yourself without being rude. Ask your questions without acting as if you're fighting anybody. Like I always tell people, I always tell me, don't let your first reaction to issue be that of fight. Somebody does something, what's wrong with you? Don't let your first reaction be aggressive. Always calm down. Try to reason with the person. You be the mature. I always see, a lot of people believe that children don't understand these things. See, you can tell a 6-year-old this thing and the child will understand. You can tell a 5-year-old. You can, excuse me, you can tell it to a 4-year-old and the child will understand. So long as you are saying it age appropriately. Tell the 4-year-old, see, let me tell my dear, come on, don't always fight. This is not this pencil you want to collect. Ask him nicely. Tell him, Emeka, please borrow me your pencil, please. I'll give it to you when I finish. If the person says no, tell him, okay, and you walk away. Say it age appropriately. Children will understand. So spell out the rules. You tell your 4-year-old, you tell your 15-year-old. Just make sure that whatever you're saying it in a way that the child will understand according to his age, all right? Then also you have to make them want to change. Let the child know that you don't like that character. Not that you don't like him for doing that character, no. Or that you don't like her. I just, you this girl, my God, I just hate you. You're always making me shout. Ah, God, when are you going to finish writing why I can leave my house? You don't say such things, all right? Let the child know that it is the behavior that you do not like, okay? And then let the child know why it is important for him to change that behavior. All right, let the child know. Like I always tell children, I tell my children, I tell my the children in school, I always tell them, listen to instructions, take corrections so that you can have an easy life. Okay, it's a regular saying that I tell them, when they give you instructions and you don't take it, when you misbehave, they will correct you. Make sure you take the corrections. If you don't take the corrections, you are planning to have a difficult life. I said, because after a while, people will do away with you. People will just, please leave him, let him do whatever he likes. You know, and that way, once you start becoming a persona non grata, nobody wants to do anything with you. Nobody will want to come and patronize you. I always tell them, nobody will want to patronize you when you're doing business. When you get to invest, even in this your class, if you don't understand anything, nobody wants to play with you, nobody will want to share anything with you, nobody wants you in their circle. You end up become lonely and sad. When you begin to tell children these things, give them reasons why they should change. Trust me, it works. When you give children reasons, it makes your parenting journey, it makes it easy for them to just take instructions. You know, gone are the days when parents will say, don't question me, how dare you, I'm talking, you're talking. That is old school. If you do that, you end up raising strangers, all right? Because a lot of times the children will have a lot of things that they want to say, and just because you are the type. I remember one certain time, two teenagers, you know, they escorted my son after school. So initially he would come to meet me in school and we'll go home together. So they escorted him, and one of them was telling them, say, ah, now what for you, now you get time, me I know they talk anything, now wait till they my mind, now I want to, if my mother just tell me, I could just tell her, okay. Do you understand? So the boy had developed a defense mechanism. He had made up his mind that whatever he wants to do, I think he was just about 14 then, whatever he wants he would do, you know, because this other one was saying, if I tell my mom, you know, he was trying to see how he would convince the mom. I think they wanted to go for somewhere, I cannot remember. But you know, the point I'm just trying to make is that this particular boy had made up his mind that he's not telling anybody anything. Whatever instruction they give him, he just says okay, but it is what is in his mind that he will do. So as parents, when you tell children, don't question me, don't ask me question, whatever I do, whatever I say is final, they will tell you okay, but they will do children why it is for their good, ultimately for them to drop certain bad behaviors. You cannot force them. When you force children, when a child is acting inappropriately and you begin to come hard on that child, you begin to force the child. You forcing the child is you pushing the child in the opposite direction of what it is you want. Exactly, you're forcing the child to do good, but in the process of forcing, you are pushing the child in the opposite direction. Let's try to hurry up because this is a 1 hour program, and then another 1 hour tomorrow. And like I said, intrinsic motivation works best. Willingness must come from within. So you have to work on the child from within, all right, so that the child will be able to change that, whatever the behavior is, no matter what the behavior is. Once you make the child understand the benefits of him doing things the right way, trust me, that child will be willing to change. And then another thing to consider is the ability to change. Does this child have the capacity to change? All right, you find out that when you give your child instruction, you tell the child to go to room, or you tell the child to, which instance am I going to cite now? Okay, you tell the child, when you come back from school, please put beans on the fire. Before the beans is done, I'll be back from work. Or put it on the fire and put on the stove once the beans is half cooked. And then you come home, the child has not done it. You give the child instruction the next day, the child has not done it, and then you can see that this child is sincerely sorry. This child actually wanted to. You may find out that that child is actually dealing with absent-mindedness or forgetfulness. So that child is not even able to change by himself. That child needs help on another level. A child that is always breaking your plates, a child is washing your cup, washing plates, before you know, you just hear one glass cup has broken. You now see a lot of parents, you this child, we used to have a neighbor that this child always breaks plates. Every time she's working, she breaks the dishes, you know. And unfortunately, she was not even staying with her mom, she was staying with her mom's sister. So the auntie just concluded that, you know, the woman will say it in Yoruba, Ajenie, you're a witch. You know, and then this child will come out, she would cry, she would leave her flat and go to the back of my window, and she would cry and cry and cry. It was obvious that it wasn't intentional, you know. At that point, it is obvious that this child cannot help herself. I personally, growing up as a child, in fact, I can't count the number of dishes, my mother's plates and cups that I broke. So I could feel that child's pain. Do you understand? It wasn't much later in my adult years, even when Android phones came out, that was when it dawned on me that I had issues with my grip. You know, it was always a problem for me holding things firmly. I had started making conscious effort. So that problem had always been there whilst I was a child. I'm washing plate because I couldn't hold, you know, that's hold things firmly. You know, even sometimes when I wake up in the morning, my hands are not, you know, working so perfectly. And I checked medically, doctor just says probably it's hand-eye coordination or something. It's not a problem. A lot of children have this problem. So when the child is always breaking your plates, for instance, the child is always destroying things in the house, you now begin to think it's like this girl is an ogbanje. I used to have a little boy. My goodness, you know, the more I talk, the more I remember all these instances. The woman calls him Mr. Destroyer or God Destroyer. He breaks everything that he touches. And it's so unfortunate that this particular boy lost his dad, and they had to bring him to his father's brother. But you know, in this part of Africa, we don't even pay attention to the fact that this boy may actually be going through psychological trauma. He was just sick, the pain of losing his father, because they had to share the children, you know. His other siblings had to go to other family members to stay with them. So he wasn't seeing his other siblings anymore. He was in a new home. He had just lost his father. So the family did not even think that this boy could actually be, you know, if this boy could actually be going through trauma. You understand? That's why he just breaks everything that he touches, or maybe it was just his way of venting, of exhaling, you know, a way of just letting go of the pain and all of that. They just concluded, they just branded him. You know, the woman brought him for after school, and the woman was like, auntie, please, oh, this boy is a God Destroyer. Find him a permanent seat. Maybe you put one seat beside you. Do you understand? So find out that, does this child have the capacity to really change? Is this misbehavior a medical issue? A lot of times, you know, I remember a certain time that there's this particular girl that doesn't copy notes, and they will flog and flog and flog during my service. They will flog and flog and flog and flog. Sometimes she copies half and she stops. You know, eventually they had to bring her to the counselor, and the counselor was asking her, why don't you like? The girl was like, I want to copy note. But you know, found out that the woman had to tell her, okay, take the pencil and write. So the woman was dictating and she was writing. After a while, the girl was like, so when you now, I wasn't the one anyway, let me not. The counselor took the book, I was just an observer. The counselor took the book and checked, you know. Thank God for the wisdom that that woman displayed, because the parents were tired. Do you understand? They were so tired. The guardian will call, because it was a boarding school. The guardian will call that these girls' notes are incomplete, that every the girl is in the staff room with the guardian copying notes. So the counselor had to intervene. When you take her book where she writes, if you turn the other page, a blind man can actually feel it with his hand and read. So the counselor found that she was actually exerting too much pressure on the pen when writing, and by the time she writes just a little, because of the pressure she's exerting on the pen, her hands are weak already and she's tired and she cannot write anything anymore. So sometimes when you find out that, you know, at a point they had already branded her on serious in the class, but then again she was having a problem, she had a challenge that she needed help. So always find out that, okay, I want my child to change. Does my child have the capacity to change? Does he need extra help? Is it a medical condition? Do you understand? A child that comes to school and is always sleeping, and then you are beating the child. Like for that girl, it took a while to just, take her back, and I left the school anyway. I didn't know the stage that she had gotten to afterwards. But the fact that they were able to find out that she not copying her notes, having incomplete notes, was because she had an issue. She needed to be helped. She needed to be taught a better way. That must have been a problem, a particular lapses from when she was in preschool. She wasn't taught proper pencil grip, so she's always pressing, especially for children that sweat on palms, they press their pens a lot. So as a parent, find out that, okay, this bad behavior that I want my child to stop, does he have the capacity? Do you understand? That is why the diagnosis, like I said in the first instance, is very important. Does my child have the ability to stop? Okay, I've talked to my child and he's really stop. Does he really have the ability? Does he need extra help? For a child that is dealing with absent-mindedness and forgetfulness, can we help the child? Is this child going through one particular trauma or the other? Do I need to teach the child? Do I need to show the child? All right, so find out that, does my child have the capacity to stop? A child that is bedwetting, you cannot flog bedwetting away from the child. All right, so you find out that, does this child have the capacity to stop? For a lot, okay, a few, not actually a lot, for a few children, bedwetting is actually a medical condition, because you see some children, adults as old as 21, still bedwetting. So then you know that it is a medical condition. No matter how much you beat that child and you sing we for body, it will not stop. You will only be shaming the child. So like I said, that's why I said, don't shame the child. Separate the child from the bad behavior. Don't shame the child. Don't come so hard on the child. Find out, can this child really stop this bad behavior? Does this child need extra help? All right, so we go now see of changing a child behavior. After the diagnosis, you set the stage. Now we begin to use the tools. The tools are the ABC. That's why we say changing a child's behavior is as simple as ABC. But through the parents, you will work. It's not like putting people in front of the wall chart and be singing ABC. As a parent, you must be ready to do the work. You must be ready to give it your time. All right, so we look at the tools. What are the tools we are using? We will be working with tools. They are the antecedents, the behavior, and the consequences. All right, I this is not, I wouldn't want us to rush the tools, so we'll take it one step at a time, and God willing, we will continue tomorrow. Now, what is the first tool? Like I said, the ABC. The first tool is A, which are the antecedents. Which are the antecedents? Antecedents are the things you do before the behavior occurs. Now, funny enough, as parents, we use antecedents a lot, but we are not using it to our advantage. We are not using it as a tool to change our children's behaviors. They are the things that we do so that the behavior that we want our children to imbibe can happen. Okay, and then first, like I said, is for you to state the behavior that you want to change. State the behavior that you want to stop, the bad behavior that you want the child to stop, and then state the new behavior that you want the child to imbibe. So you know that you're coming from here, I'm working with this, I want to bring my child from here and take him to this place, so that you, the parent, you're not the one carrying the child to where you don't know. Do you understand? Because like I said, you can stop one bad behavior, and if you do not replace it with a better behavior, the child may replace it with another bad behavior. Okay, you stop a child from shouting at his younger ones, or you stop a child from beating his younger ones. You have stopped him from beating the younger ones, and you don't replace it with the appropriate behavior. When you are not there, it's going to starve those children. When you are not there, you give them rice, you will not put meat, you eat their meat. When you give him money, buy snacks for the younger ones, you buy You tell him buy for the 4 younger ones, you buy two, so it will just replace it with another inappropriate behavior. So at the end of the day, you are not even changing that child's behavior. You're just moving from one problem, from fry pan to fire, or from fire to fry pan. At the end of the day, the issue is still there. So there are three types of antecedents. The first type is what we call the prompts. The first type of antecedents is what we call the prompts. Now, prompts are verbal statements that you use to give instructions. But now, like I said, we use these tools, okay? We use antecedents, but we don't use them appropriately. We don't use them as tools. So now we're going to be learning how to use antecedents as tools to change our children's behavior. So like I said, prompts are verbal statements that will state exactly what you want the child to do and what you don't want the child to do. All right, you tell your child, see, today I don't want you to beat any of your younger ones. I want you to tolerate them. Anyone that misbehaves, wait for me to come back. Tell me, and I will discipline that child. That is a verbal prompt. You have stated what you do not want and what you want. Now, I must say this, that when we are giving prompts, much of our authority lies in our voice. I'm not saying screaming, but the way you give instructions, you have to say it in a very firm tone so that the child knows that it is a matter of seriousness. If you need to come down to the child's level, you call the child. Emeka, come, sit down. You're going to work now, or you're going to school now. You'll be coming back with your younger ones. You'll be coming back by 4. I will join you by 5:30. Now, for that 1 hour, 30 minutes, I'm not going to be around with any of your younger ones. No matter what they say to you, no matter what they do to you, just wait for me. I will discipline them. If you have to write it down, write it out. You must not, I repeat, you mustn't beat any of your younger ones for no reason whatsoever. Do you understand? You have come down to the child's level and you have told the child what you want and what you do not want. Tolerate them. All I need you to do is to make sure that immediately you come, put the bags, in the lunch bags, in the kitchen. You can wash the plate. Just give the child what you want and what you do not want. Now, these are verbal prompts. State what you want clearly, what you do not want clearly, and state it in a firm tone so that the child knows that, like, say, this matter serious. This one that my mom is talking. You are not shouting. Do you know there are times that you could actually whisper to a child and the child knows that you are serious? Sometimes you say, come, one instruction. The child will know that you are serious. It is the firmness in your voice that will tell the seriousness of that instructions. If you just say it casually, Emeka, I'm going, don't beat any of my child, don't beat any of your younger ones, so I warned you, and you just go. Trust me, that instruction may not sink, especially if you don't have issues. You understand? If your child doesn't have any of such behaviors, that instruction will fly. That instruction is enough. But if your child is having issues with a particular behavior and you want to change it, then you have to make sure that you are giving verbal instructions. You are using it as a tool. You have to be intentional about what you want. Say it like you mean it. Number 2 antecedents are what we call positive setting events. All right, now these are indirect antecedents that they increase the likelihood of an event occurring. All right, just like I said, the way you say it matters a lot. These are events that will increase, that will make it easy, all right, for the child to obey what you have said. You check the conditions that make this child misbehave and you take them out. Okay, in you giving instructions to that child, you also go and give those younger ones, especially those ones that always have sharp mouths. Now, these are positive setting events. Now, examples of positive setting events: increasing the likelihood. These are events that will increase the possibility of that event occurring, or increase the possibility of your child obeying your instructions. So, like I said, we are using the example of a child that is always beating his younger ones as a bad behavior. So, I'll be giving examples in that regard. After you have given Emeka instructions not to beat any of his younger ones, you will now go and call those smallies in the presence of Emeka, and you will tell him, listen to me, Nkechi, Nnamdi, Okoro, Emeka is your elder brother. Under no condition should you disregard him. When he tells you, I've given him authority, I've instructed him to discipline you. So when he tells you to sit down, you do what? You sit down. When he tells you, take your lunch bags to the kitchen, remove your food flags and put on the sink, you do exactly as he says. If he tells you to put your uniforms in the laundry basket, you do exactly as it. So these are positive setting events. You are creating an environment that will make it easy for a maker to put an end to that his inappropriate behavior. So whatever behavior that it is that you want to change, you have to make sure that there are positive setting events around that child. You have given the child verbal prompts. You have stated it clearly, what you want, what you do not want. You have come down to the child's level to understand, to ensure that the child understands. You have spelled it out in a firm tone. Then you are setting the environment, positive setting, ensuring that this child, you are enabling the environment, you are helping the child, making it easy for the child. Another thing you can do in line with positive setting events is that try not to give general instructions. General instructions may work for children that don't have issues, all right? You don't have issues in that particular area, just give general instructions, the child will obey. But this particular one, this one that you want to change, general instructions will not sink. If you just give general instructions, it's as good as you're talking to the air. The child may not, it may just, come this way and come out, because that is a character that the child is struggling with, all right? So we're trying to nail it. We're trying to put the instruction. When you give prompts, don't give prompts that are too general. Don't just generalize. Emeka, don't beat your children. Don't beat your younger ones. Emeka, don't behave like Agbaya. That is a general prompt. It will not work. Emeka, don't trouble your younger ones. So that is, to him, beating them is not troubling them. He will tell you he's cautioning them, but then he's hitting so hard. So when you give general prompts, it will not work. So if you are trying to make sure that you're setting the environment, you give specific instructions. Then sometimes you have to break it down. You have to break it down for the child to understand. Okay, break it down. You tell a child that just comes back from school and doesn't want to do anything, just flings the bag and goes to lie down. He's waiting for you to come back so that you can come and give him dinner. Or you have left dinner in the pot. Child just comes back, just flings his bag in the sitting room, eats his food, drops the plates, and then goes to lie down, or sits down in front of the TV and is watching cartoons, and you have been shouting and talking and talking. You've thought today he will take his bag to the room, he will not wash the dishes. Tomorrow he will remember to wash the dishes, he will not take his bag to the room. Next tomorrow he will not remember to wash the uniform, and then it's like you're just going around in circles. So for such a child that you want to change that kind of behavior, give specific rules. These are positive setting events. Give specific rules and break it down. Break it into stages for the child. You tell the child, Atinuke, when you come back from school today, what time? The child will tell you, 4:30, ma. Immediately you get into the house by 4:30, you mustn't even look at this TV. Like I remember when I used to give such instructions, you must not even look at the shadow of the TV. Don't even look at the shadow of the TV. Just go straight into the room. What did I say? Immediately you step into the house, go straight into the room. Drop your bag in the appropriate place. Go into the bathroom, remove your uniform, wash it, bathe, put your uniform on the line. Then you go to the kitchen, eat your food. Immediately you finish eating, you go back to the kitchen and you clear the dishes. Don't leave any dishes for me. You do what? Clear the dishes. You repeat it. Like immediately you step into the house by 4:30, straight into your room. You have no business with this TV. Then look at this TV. You and this TV, you have no business. Drop your bags, straight into the bathroom, wash your uniform, take your bath, take your uniform to the line, go to the kitchen, eat your food, do the dishes, then you pick your homework. So you tell the child, repeat all the steps that I have said. The child will be counting it for you. Number one, go straight to the room. When I step into the house, I go straight to the room. I drop my bag, go to the bathroom, wash my uniform, take my bath, spread the clothes on the line, go and take my food, do the dishes. After taking my food, and then I go and do my homework. You now tell the child, after doing your homework, you are free to play, you're free to watch TV. Under no circumstances should I catch you near the remote if you haven't done all these things. So you let the child spell these things out to you like 2 or 3 times. That way you are ensuring that they understand. You are making sure that the information sticks. So even if the child is dealing with absent-mindedness, once the child, you repeat the instruction twice, the child also repeats after you 2-3 times, you know that this information has stayed. When you wake up in the morning and the child is going out, you repeat the same instruction, all right? You'll find out that the child will act better than the previous day. I'm not going to promise you that the child is going to come home and do exactly what you said the first day. For some children, they will do exactly that. But for most children, they may remember 2. For children that are lazy, they may remember everything, but may decide to just do 2. For children that are strong-willed, the ones that you call stubborn, they may decide to do just 2 and tell you, I've tried. Wash plate later. So you, at least you know that you have shifted the child. Now it becomes a process. When you keep at it, that is why you, the parent, I always say you have to be willing to give it your time. You cannot change a child's character in 2 weeks. I must tell you that, but you can set the stage. You can move the child from where the child was to a better place. You can move the child forward. The character will start getting better. You will have less frustrations. Your frustrations over that issue will begin to reduce. You start seeing the child getting better, and then you keep at it. You keep at it. And I assure you that after 3-4 weeks, you will begin to see significant improvement. And when you keep at it, how long does it take to change a child's character? As long as the character gets changed. Like I said, scientists believe that it takes 3 weeks to change a child's character. Yes, it takes 3 weeks to set the stage. It takes 3 weeks for you to begin to see positive or significant improvements. Well, it may not be permanent after 3 weeks. It may be permanent after 3 weeks. It may not be. So you have to be willing. You have to be ready to give it your time. Sometimes it's 3 weeks. Sometimes it's 3 months. Sometimes it's 4 months. Sometimes it's as quick as a week. All right. So really no specific time. That is why you, the parent, have to be committed to the process. And then offer choices that the child must comply with. One part of positive setting events. Offer choices. Now, when we say offer choices, this works for children that are strong-willed. When you consider stubborn, they just decided that I'm not going to do it. So you offer choices, a this or that, not this or nothing, this or that. Okay, especially if you're going to be around, you ask the child, so which one do you want to do now? You want to wash your clothes now before you wash the plates, or you want to wash the plates before you wash your uniform? Okay, so it is not which one do you want to do. You want to wash your clothes now or you wash it later? No, that is not the kind of options we're talking about. It is not you want to do you want to wash your uniforms now before you eat, or you want to eat before you that is not the kind of option. We give options of 2 chores that the child should do. All right, would you rather wash your clothes now and wash the dishes later, or you wash the dishes later and you wash your clothes now and wash dishes later, or you wash dishes now and wash so give the child options of chores that he can do. So the child is picking either this or that. Don't ask the child, will you eat now then you wash your uniform later? No. That is you encouraging misbehavior. So when you know that you want to change these characters, inappropriate characters, for children. Now this particular one works for children that are strong-willed. You understand? Then some children will tell you, I don't want to do anymore. Do you want to wash your clothes now and do the dishes later, or you want to do the dishes later and wash your clothes now? Majority of children will pick one, but there are some wonderful, amazing children. They will just tell you, I don't want to do anyone now. Some will even look the other way. You have to tell them in a firm tone, I'm not giving you the option to do anyone now. It is either you choose one, and then after you are done with the two, you can come and have dinner. After you are done with the two, you can come and take your seat and watch cartoon. You can go and play. So there must be, for such children, you now have to attach a consequence or a reward to it. Okay, if you don't do anyone, I'm going to take this away from you. If you don't, so the child knows that I don't have any option. Okay, if I don't wash, if I don't do choose one, I will get, I'll face the consequences, or you understand. So for such children that will tell you I don't want to do anyone, you now have to attach a consequence to it. Okay, for some children it's easier to get them to do things by attaching rewards. For those ones, those strong-willed children, you attach a consequence. So tomorrow by God's grace we'll be looking at consequences that work and how to use consequences to change your children's character. So very quickly, we have about 10 minutes more, and then like I said, offer assistance. Yes, for positive setting events, the second antecedents, you can offer assistance to jumpstart the process. Okay, you can just tell the child, because sometimes when children have to do dishes and they get into the kitchen, oh my god, and they see everywhere is so scattered. I remember a child that the mom said anytime she has to do dishes, she just sits on the floor, she begins to cry, and then she's, mom, please give me another work, these plates are too much, I will wash your clothes, give me another work. For some children, of course you cannot permit such a child, you understand. When we say jump start the process, you can help the child, like what I told the mom. I said when the kitchen is scattered like that, help her arrange it, not wash you. Just tell her, say, come, see, these plates are not so much, it's just because everywhere is scattered, let me help you arrange. Okay, so such children, you can just help them put the cups on one side, put the other side, see, it's no longer scattered. The child will look and say, okay, read, and it worked. By the time the mother did that 2 times, the child eventually saw. So you now got to the point that when you're taking dishes to the kitchen, she'll be telling you, don't scatter the kitchen for me. Oh, I'm the one that will wash plate. Oh, put the cups on this side, put the cups on this side. So it became easier, for the mom to overcome that issue, and because it was becoming an issue for, I think she was 11. Once she goes on the floor and she's crying bitterly. The mother has said she has beaten her. My neighbor had to come call me when the woman came, that please let me call auntie to come and intervene. Said she had beaten this girl. I said, it's not by beating. The girl just sees the plate and she's seeing monsters. She said she will tell the mom, pack all your clothes for me, I will wash. But eventually, when the mother began to arrange, she started getting better results. So you can offer assistance. These are part of positive setting events. You can offer assistance to jumpstart the process. Okay, then we look at the third antecedent, which is negative setting events. Now, negative setting events are the things that you really don't want to do, all right, because these are things that will decrease the chances of you changing your child's character. It will decrease all your efforts, all right. Number one is you not being consistent. You do it today, you don't do it tomorrow. Okay, the girl said, mommy, I don't want to wash plates, you help her arrange it today, and then tomorrow she still crying, please, I don't want to. You say, okay, go, I'm tired of this, I'm tired, I'm having headache, go and wash, I'll wash the plate, you don't want to do anything, go and sweep my room, go and you will now give in to the child's plea. You would rather give her something. She's begging you, give me another work. You now give her something else and you go and wash the plate. And then probably on Saturday you now wake up again and say, I'm your mother, I cannot be washing plates for you, go and wash the plate. And then on Sunday you say, today is Sunday, I don't want to shower. Don't worry, I'll wash it for you, your brother will wash it for you. So when you're not consistent, these are negative setting events, it will not work. When you do these things, it will. Another negative setting event is when you are comparing these children. Either you're comparing them with your siblings, you're comparing them with their classmates, you're comparing them with their neighbors. Can't you see Shola, as small as he is, has finished sweeping his mother's house, as small as he is the one that takes his younger wants to school and brings them back, nobody hears their voice. The more you do that, the child will be thinking in his mind, go and bring Shola to come and help you now. Since me, I'm not useful. Some children will even tell you to your face, you will go and borrow Shola, or you will go and buy Shola. You tell mom Shola to dash him to you so that I can be your son. So when you compare children, you are less likely going to get them to change that behavior. All right, focus on the child. It is you and the child. Leave all other children alone. All right, their parents have issues that they are dealing with. There's no perfect child, so just leave those children out of the entire equation and focus on your child. Another negative setting event is when you're downgrading your child. You're always insulting your child. You're always using derogatory words. Like I said, when children are scared, when children are stressed, when you use negative words on children, you stop their brain from thinking well. All right, you will continue to get more and more and more misbehaviors. When you call the child stupid, just get ready, because you have activated stupidity in the child the more, and it will continue to increase. All right, and then when you issue threats, you see a lot of parents, when you issue impossible threats, if I come back today and you have not washed that cloth, I promise you, I will break your head. Me and you, including the child, knows that you will not break that child's head. You issue threats like, I will tear your face, tear your eyes, put pepper in your eyes, put pepper in your anus. We know that you're not going to do, and the child knows, all right, except for all these wicked stepmother stories that we used to read and watch on African Magic. You and I know that you're not going to carry out all of these threats. So when you issue impossible threats, these are negative setting events, you are reducing the chances of changing your child's character. So try as much as possible to stop doing all these things. And then when you give aggressive behaviors, aggressive instructions, when you give aggressive instructions doesn't stick. All right, such aggressive instructions only stay in the child's short-term memory. Okay, for every individual we have the working memory, the long-term memory, and the short-term memory. All right, some school of thought will actually classify working memory as also short-term memory. All right, working memory is just you holding the information long enough for you to execute that particular task. So when you give aggressive instructions, that is just working memory. That instruction will never, the child will never commit it to his long-term memory. So you always have to give instructions in such a, you always have to remind the child. All right, so these are activities, these are events that will make your journey, your parenting journey, more difficult. Don't shout instructions to your children. Like I said, I have explained how to give verbal prompts. They work. Much of your power lies in your tone. So once you are screaming, you are giving out your power as a parent. Once you scream out an instruction, you're giving out your power. It shows you are not in control of yourself, of your own emotions. How much more you wanting to control your child. So be firm, not aggressive in giving instructions, and such instructions will stick. Then finally, another way you can make your child comply, another antecedent, is you using playful challenge. Yes, playful challenge. You want your child is a picky eater, and you tell him, let's play a challenge. First person to finish his meal, or if you eat all the food on your plate, you get a chocolate. If you eat all the food in your plate, you and mommy will stroll, we'll take a walk. Just give playful challenge. All right, especially for this works for younger little children. All right, if you're telling that to a teenager, especially children in this 21st century, I remember a teenager telling them that they play. So if you tell a teenager that, the teenager will just look at you and say they play, you understand? So but such playful challenge works for younger children. All right, so that is us looking at the A, which is antecedents in the tools. Like I said, we have 3 tools in changing a child's behavior. We have the antecedents, we have the behavior, and the consequences. So God willing, this is supposed to have been a 1 hour session, but I've exceeded our time by over 15 minutes. So God willing, tomorrow we will be looking at the behavior, how to make the behavior stay. All right, we'll be looking at the process in making the behavior stay. That is the shaping and simulation, making the consequences, how we can use consequences to the discipline that works. Okay, we'll be looking at the difference between discipline and punishments, consequences basically, and how these consequences, rewards and consequences, to change our children's behavior. And hopefully, I'm hoping that we'll have enough time so that we can go through the points program. I really love it's just like a remote. At a point, it almost looks like you are remoting the children, and it works absolutely well. So we'll be calling it a day today, and we will be I would like you to drop your questions in the comment section. Drop your questions in the comment section. All right, comment section, and I will attend to them at a much later time. All right, so thank you so much for making it a day today. God willing, tomorrow we will continue. All right, thank you so much. Okay.